Hey everyone, Kiri here. If you haven't already noticed from my last few videos, I'm currently on a bit of a Pokemon hyperfixation again. I've been sitting on my ass and dying of illness with nothing to do but twiddle my thumbs and rewatch Hoodlum Callum Free-for-all videos.
Sylvie's gonna fan him for us and she's gonna come up behind me like a nonce.
I've got Pokemon on the brain. I know a lot of you come to my channel for Ben 10 stuff, and I promise I'm not going to stop making Ben 10 content, but as someone with both autism and ADHD, burnout really hits hard sometimes, and so I've got to do other stuff until I'm feeling better again. Really sorry about that. That being said, if you are a little star for Ben 10 content here on the channel, I recommend taking a link that will be pinned in the top comment of this video, as that will take you to our brand new Kiri14k Alien Origins wiki server. I've been working on this server all by myself, posting art submissions, writing lore, and listing the powers of Kiri14k's various alien transformations. The wiki is currently incomplete because, like I said, I'm purely working on it by myself, but there is definitely plenty of stuff there as it is right now if you want to drop in and read up on some good old lore. But with all that said, let's now move on into the topic of today's video, where I'm going to be discussing every team I've ever used when playing through Pokemon. Without further ado, let's get right into it. It's hero time! So starting off with the very first Pokemon game I ever had, Pokemon Diamond. To this day, the team I had in that game confuses me on a level that I can't quite put into words. On my Nintendo 2DS's Pokemon Diamond cartridge, my save file has a team consisting of a level 40 Infernape called Char, which I'm pretty sure means that Charmander was my first ever Pokemon, unless I had a save file before this one that I just don't remember due to being too young at the time. A level 23 Gyarados called Gyarados, a level 20 Gyarados called Gyarados, and a level 7 Ponyta called Ham. Yeah. That was my team, and for some reason I was outside of the Pokemon daycare with 2 more Ponytas in the daycare. So, I guess I was trying to live the My Little Pony jar lifestyle back then. I don't really know what that team was about, but oof. My next Pokemon game was Pokemon Black.
The black one!
Wherein I chose Oshawott as my starter, which I did actually evolve into a Samurott, but as a stupid kid with a curious brain, I wanted to find out what it meant when you release a Pokemon. You can see where this is going. Thinking it would let me have my Pokemon follow me around like I'd seen pictures of online, I released my Samurott. The fucker never came back. After that, my team was a Musharna, a Stoutland, a Darmanitan, a Krokorok, a Leavanny, and a Gurdurr. I don't know their exact levels or what their nicknames were because I don't have the game cartridge anymore, but I remember the team vividly because each of them has like a core memory in my mind. Musharna was at the front of my party when my cousin once asked me why I didn't lead my starter, and I explained that I released it. The Stoutland I had because it looked similar to my first dog, Eddie, who was still only a puppy at the time. The Darmanitan evolved from a Darumaka, and when it evolved I was literally so excited that I spun around with glee in my living room. And I spun around so fast that when I accidentally let go of my DS, it literally flew across the room and shattered the screen of my parents' TV. I guess you could say that Kiri learnt Rock Throw that day, and it sure as shit was a critical hit. Krokorok was my favourite Pokemon for a while as a kid, so I had that on the team of course. Leavanny was on my team because I really struggled with Berg's Leavanny, and so therefore I thought that it was a stupidly OP Pokemon. Not the case, I just had a really shit team for fighting bug types. And Gurdurr was on my team because I really wanted a Conkeldurr, but I didn't know it was a trade evolution, so it literally stayed as a Gurdurr like my entire playthrough. Next up was Pokemon White 2, another game that I ended up losing the cartridge for. But if memory serves correctly, my team was an Emboar, Ampharos, Lucario, Weezing, Magneton, and a male Jellicent. Next up was Pokemon X and Y. I had Pokemon X on release, but I lost the cartridge at some point, and more recently I wanted to go back and play it for nostalgia because X and Y are just some of my favourite Pokemon games overall, and so that time I decided to pick up a copy of Pokemon Y. I don't remember how far I got on my X save file, but my team was a Chesnaught, a Charizard, which could Mega Evolve into Charizard X, a Goodra, a Heliolisk, Heliolisk? Why can't I say that name? Heliolisk, a Malamar, and an Aurorus. When I went back to Gen 6 later on with my Y save file, I did actually go on to beat the Elite Four and the Champion, and I still have that save file to this day, so I do know exactly what nicknames I gave them all. My starter was a Delphox called Witch, and I had a Blastoise which could Mega Evolve called Luffy, a Pikachu called Paw that I got at the very start of the game and kept as a Pikachu all the way up until the end of the game. I mean, I can even remember literally going out of my way to beat a Pokemon with him during the champion fight, just so it wouldn't feel like he was a wasted slot on the team. I had a Snorlax called Totoro, which was the Snorlax you catch outside the Pokemon Mansion by using that flute item thing. I had a Tyrantrum called King, and my last team member was a Lapras called Lacey, which, funny enough, turned out to be a character in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so there we go, foresight, baby. Honestly, this is one of my favourite teams I've ever had, and I've got some real nostalgia for these guys. Next up, Pokemon Omega Ruby. This was the first game where I actually managed to beat the Elite Four and Champion, and my team was a Swampert that could Mega Evolve called Muddy Derp, and this guy is really special to me because he was actually the first Pokemon I ever got to level 100, literally just by grinding out levels against wild Pokemon in Elite Four rematches, so Muddy Derp, special place in my heart. The rest of my party consisted of a Breloom called Toad, a Shedinja called Wheat, an Aggron called Ageless, a Manectric called Doggy Dog, and a Salamence called Jane. To be honest, even though this was my first champion team, I feel like this roster is kind of generic and forgettable. Muddy Derp is always going to have a special place in my heart, but outside of that, I think Toad and Ageless are the only two members of the team I actually remember fondly during my playthrough. Next up, Pokemon Moon. In this game, my team is a Primarina called Prince, a Mimikyu called Muppet, a Beware called Poe, an Alolan Executor called Palmer, an Alolan Muck called Ooze, and a Crabominable called Crush. To be honest, this team is a mess. I really don't like the choices I made with this one. They're fine, but it just feels a bit off. My next Pokemon game was Let's Go Eevee. In this game, my team was obviously a partner Eevee, which I called Luffy, the same as that Mega Blastoise from my Y playthrough. Can you tell I like One Piece? And I also had a shiny Victory Bell that I shiny hunted for on release day called Pitcher, a Ninetales called Shinobi, an Alolan Raichu that couldn't be nicknamed because I got it from a trade, a Dugtrio called Doug, and an Aerodactyl called Airade. Next up, Pokemon Shield. In this game, my starter was an Inteleon called Showers, and the rest of my team was a Colossal called Volcano, a Frostmoth called Snowflake, a Duraludon called Titan, a Toxtricity called Giro, and a Grimmsnarl called Muzan. I'd say this team was pretty right, and I think back on it very fondly. I like this team a lot. Next was Pokemon Legends Arceus. I did get Pokemon Brilliant Diamond later on, but seeing as I got Legends Arceus before that, let's go over that team first, even though that game released after Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. In this game, my team was a Hisuian Typhlosion called Bruno, and I had a Floatzel called Scuba, a Hisuian Lilligant called Dancing Queen, a Gliscor called Glider, an Overquill called Sugar Puffs, and a Dialga called Josuke. Now, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. In this game, I chose Chimchar to honor my first team way back when I was a kid. So my team was an Infernape called Wukong, a Garchomp called Thrusters, a Lopunny called Lady, a Skuntank called Stench, a Vaporeon called Soak, and a Mew that I got from some random dude in the early game. Now we move on to the final team of the video, my team for Pokemon Violet. For this game, I didn't actually have any of the starter Pokemon on my final team, because honestly I thought all three of the starters were pretty lame this generation. So my team consisted of a Goldengo called Mr. Drippy, a Satitan called Noelle, a Flapple called Bakugan, a Farigiraf called Hoodie, a Sylveon called Tristan, and another Toxtricity called Giro, because I'm basic. This team is my favourite to date, and I have a really deep attachment to every member. But with all that said, that about concludes all I have to say with this video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these teams that I've used was your favourite, or was the one that you found the most interesting, and with that, let's move into our usual post-video rituals. So, big thank you to our channel's Thunderbeasts, Meninal, Mua, I probably said that wrong, Sharky, Hearn_TC, and Riverjoy. If you want to help support the channel and help keep it going, please consider becoming a member today. Now let's discuss last video's poll, where I asked you guys if you preferred the canon design for blocks, his 5YL design, or my Segmenta Sapient design, Brick Fist. With 5.4k total votes, official blocks surprisingly won overall with 53% total favour. 5YL blocks came in last with 16% of the votes, and my good old Brick Fist got second place with a big fat 31%, which I can't complain about. I honestly can't believe that 5YL's design came in last. All I hear about this design is praise, and all I hear is hate on the main design. Like, outside of my own community, at least, because I know inside my community, a lot of people like regular blocks, and like a lot of people, obviously including me, within my community have kind of the controversial Ben 10 opinions, but I don't know, I'm just surprised that 5YL came last. Again, it's relative, because obviously I'm not Kuro. I'm sure if he made the poll, Brick Fist would be dead last or second, but I don't know, the result surprises me, okay? I'm just happy that I'm not last. I did also ask you guys to try and guess which one of the Ben 10 series has my favourite cast of introduced aliens overall, and my answer to that is actually Ultimate Alien. A lot of my favourites come from this one, such as Eatle, Fast Track, Shark Squatch, Water Hazard, Terraspin, Armadillo, and Clockwork. And I really like a lot of the Ultimate designs, even if I know that some people find them controversial. It seems that a lot of people didn't actually suspect the answer from me, as even though a lot of people commented, only one person actually got it right. So, big shout out to Omni Games for guessing that my favourite was Ultimate Alien. Now let's move into this video's poll, where I'm going to be making you guys choose your very own starter Pokemon. As of the following Pokemon to have as a starter in the new Pokemon game, which option would you pick? Mudkip, Chikorita, or Tepig? Leave a comment below or on the poll guessing which one you think I would choose, and with that, I'll see you all next time. Adios, fellow heroes!